right? Who is going to reimburse these billions of dollars in commissions should this ever, big question mark there, become a decision in the plaintiff's favor?
Well, I think, Chase, like all lawsuits, right, they'll go for the deepest pockets first, right, which will be the actual franchisors and, of course, the National Association of Realtors, which has been named as well. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to figure out a way to go and pull this money from the pockets of the realtors who actually did the deals.
As you and I know, the lion's share of commission does go into the realtor's pocket, right? The actual local realtor serving the client, not into the brokerage coffers or even NAR, right? Now, they're not broke, don't get me wrong, and yet that would be potentially a challenge. The other concern I have, Bruce, on the other side of this idea that somehow consumers are being overcharged based on the practices of NAR and local MLSs. I don't believe that's true, but my concern would be if there's a move for buyers to have to pay their own commissions out of their pocket, which is one of the conversation pieces around this suit. There's a risk, in my opinion, that a lot of buyers would end up without representation, right? So if anyone out there is waiting for rates to change significantly, right, they're always bumping up and down a little bit. We talk about that kind of like looking at the stock market, right? If you look at it every 10 minutes, you're going to, maybe get dizzy. But I don't see any significant reduction in rates happening anytime soon. The problem that we're having in part with inventory is the functional mortgage rate. In other words, the average mortgage rate of an active mortgage across the board is less than 3.5%. So you have a bunch of home sellers out there, if I were to guess, even if they're considering selling and they're sitting on a 3%, rate on their mortgage, in their head, they're like, well, if I sell now and buy another house, I'm going to be in a 6.5%, 7% mortgage, and mine's 3%. Right. So again, people will still move regardless of rates when the need in their life is high enough. But those that are just considering are taking that rate difference into consideration, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the volatility of the interest rates is going to continue, right? Well, the FHFA estimated that Fannie and Freddie completed more than 1 million COVID-19 payment deferrals during the pandemic. Their perspective is that expanding to more borrowers will promote sustainable home ownership and will further support the safety and soundness of the enterprises. So, I think about this, Chase. Inflation's the real deal. We've talked about this in the past, that inflation actually can be one of the greatest threats to democracy. And the reason is that inflation impacts different groups differently, right? Lower to middle income groups get hit much harder than the upper income groups do. I think this is smart. Why not get ahead of the problem before it becomes a problem? I like to say, kill the monster while it's a baby, rather than wait for it to become a massive issue. I heard an interesting comment the other day, right? The reason that the Fed moved so quickly with the Silicon Valley Bank, right, was usually the first domino to fix is the cheapest. If that domino were to fall and create a run on banks, now what happens is it becomes a tsunami that the cost to get out of is huge. So I think that this is smart. I think it's good. What they're doing here is they're working on expanding their loss mitigation toolkits for buyers facing hardships. And I think that that's a smart move on behalf of the government.